Hey guys, Joe here with Lights On for Safety. I am so excited to be bringing you a video on my new P320 X Compact that I just picked up today. But before we do, a quick thank you to Yeti. While they didn't sponsor this video, they did make the cup that is currently keeping my ice cream very cold. So thank you to Yeti. Alright guys, I've been wanting to get a P320 X Compact for quite a while now. Ever since I saw him at SHOT Show 2019, I thought, man, that is a gun that I want to have. Now before that, I carried a P320 Compact basically every single day concealed, and it was a little bit bigger than what I would like it to be, which is why the X Compact was so appealing, but the features on this thing were what really sold me. So I finally put my P320 up for sale on Arms List a couple weeks ago and sold it for $400, which was $100 less than what I paid for it, but to have carried it for the number of years I did and get the use out of it, I think that's just fine. So I picked this up at my local gun store for $600, and I want to go ahead and just show you some of my initial impressions from having it for just a couple of hours. Now, one thing that I didn't find in all my research on the P320 was a whole lot of information on the trigger. Now, while I did hear a lot of people talk about how great it was, what I didn't hear was exactly how much creep it had or exactly how much over travel or that sort of thing. So I want to go ahead and go through that with you right now. Kind of my gold standard to compare everything to is my 226, which is my first SIG that I bought 5 or 6 years ago. So I'll go ahead and explain what I did to measure this. So in single action mode, first I want to talk about the take-up. The take-up on this is pretty excessive, but I personally don't care because the take-up is where you're disengaging internal safeties, which I'm totally fine with that taking a little bit, and it's usually super light, so it doesn't matter. So measuring from the very bottom tip of the trigger, this has about 290 thousandths of take-up, which is quite a bit, but again, it's like a pound of effort, so I'm totally cool with it. As soon as I put my finger on the trigger, it's pulling up that take-up, so that's not part of my trigger pull every single shot. Okay, from there, it's got about 60 thousandths of an inch of creep before the shot breaks. Okay, after that creep, this has 80 thousandths of over travel. Okay, so a little bit more than the creep, and then it's got the reset, which is 140 thousandths. And that's all the creep plus all the over travel, and you're right back where you were. Now the trigger on this is just a touch over 5 pounds, but it's really smooth. You can tell it's all metal on metal, and it just has a really nice feel to it. No grittiness, no sponginess. It's just a really smooth trigger that's fairly short. Now, the P320 X Compact, the first time I felt the trigger, it actually reminded me a lot of the trigger on a P365. I thought, man, they were thinking of that when they built the trigger for this. Because while this is a flat trigger, the take-up, the creep, the over travel, everything about it is just like a 365. Now, I've never measured what the specs are on a P365, but I would imagine it's going to be fairly close to this. So you've got a little bit shorter take-up than what you do with the 226, which again, I kind of don't care about. It's 150 thousandths measured from the very bottom. Okay, then you have 90 thousandths worth of creep, so quite a bit more than the 226. And it's a little bit more spongy, although it's still that same close to 5 pounds. And then after that break, you've got another 110 thousandths of over travel. So you've got quite a bit more over travel with this. The over travel and the creep combined mean a 200 thousandths reset. So the reset on this is quite a bit more than my 226. Now, those are the numbers. As far as how it actually feels, like I said, that creep does feel a little bit kind of spongy, but at the same time, it also, I don't know, it's almost like a welcome sponginess. So it's not as bad as what I might make it sound like. As far as the actual weight on the trigger, I think I mentioned it is just over 5 pounds, so it's actually really comparable to my 226, but it does kind of have that Glock feeling, like I said, with that sponginess and that kind of excessive over travel, but it's still a good trigger overall, and I am pretty happy with it. Another thing I really like about this is the sights. Just like the P365, it has the X-Ray 3 day-night sights where it's got a super bright front sight with that fluorescent green, and then a tritium insert in the front post as well as two in the back to make for a really good sight picture when it's light and a decent sight picture when it's not. So the sights are, I would say, top-notch. As far as the ergonomics go, I would say they are improved over the standard 320. Part of that's due to the undercut underneath the trigger guard, as well as the just the reduced circumference overall. This actually has a really similar feel to the small grip that I had on my P320, but it does seem like it's just a touch smaller, and it feels like I can get a little bit higher of a purchase. So I'm really looking forward to getting this thing out and shooting it, especially with how nice the grip feels. Another thing that I really like about it is that the slide catch actually sticks out a little bit more than the standard P320. Now I use the slide catch as a slide release, so that's something that if it's a little bit extended, just makes it that much easier for me to get my thumb on and get that slide sent home where it needs to be. Speaking of the slide, one thing that I am not sure how I feel about is the loaded chamber indicator right here. Now, for me, I would rather either do a press check or just know that my gun's loaded all the time. So this isn't something that I am really looking forward to. And on the downside, it is another moving part that I think, well, it could get gunk or junk, stuck in, and it might cause some sort of an issue later on down the road. But at the same time, I think, well, I kind of doubt that it's going to cause the slide to fail to go into battery or some sort of an issue like that. So time will tell as I use the thing and determine whether or not I actually like the loaded chamber indicator. But for now, I think I'm just going to have to get used to it. The last thing I want to talk about is the overall fit and finish of this gun. My old P320 was made, I think, in 2015, so it was one of the earlier versions, and you could kind of tell based on just the overall fit and finish of the gun. This seems to have the grip module lining up really good with the slide. The guide rod sticks out about as much as the barrel does, so even though it's not flush, I think it matches with the barrel really good, so I think that looks sharp. And overall, it just looks like the build quality is top-notch. So guys, that's basically it for my initial impressions on the P320 X Compact. Like I said, I'm really excited about this gun, really excited to get out, put some rounds downrange, and start carrying this thing every day. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.